Welcome to the Life Makeovers podcast. My name is Cindy D. Whitmer, and I am the Midlife Makeover Coach, helping you turn your midlife into your best life, one step at a time. Through powerful conversations, my own midlife roller coaster story, and over 3 decades of helping people transform their lives through counseling and coaching, I am on a mission to help you create your own definition of success and happiness. Thank you for being here. Well, hey, everybody. Thanks for being with me today on the Life Makeovers podcast. I so appreciate you taking time out for yourself, for us to spend this time together. And today I have a delightful, wonderful treat for you because I have with me Elizabeth Kipp, who is a fellow Lawrenceian with me here in Lawrence, Kansas. And we are both members of the Wellness Universe together and have become good friends. Let me tell you a little bit about Elizabeth's background so you know what you are in for today. I can't wait. So Elizabeth Kipp is a stress management and historical trauma specialist who uses trauma-trained and yoga-informed addiction recovery coaching, ancestral clearing, compassionate inquiry, and yoga to help people with their healing. She has healed from over 40 years of chronic pain, including anxiety, panic attacks, and addiction. Now in long-term recovery, she guides others to unleash their healing power, find freedom from suffering, and live a thriving life. She is the best-selling author of The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power. And I cannot wait to talk to you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sure our audience is going to just eat up every word you say.
My goodness, thank you so much, Cindy, for having me on. And I'm so excited to bring my perspective on this whole topic of the midlife to bear, because I was 59 when I healed from my chronic pain.
Wow. So you were right smack in the middle of what most of us define as midlife then. Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody, the doctors, except the very last one that I found, they all said you can't heal from chronic pain. and I bucked that prognosis big time.
Wait a second. You had a doctor tell you can't heal?
Many doctors. Many doctors. You can't heal from chronic pain.
Oh my gosh. So that's a strong belief out there, even in the medical field.
Well, that's one of the reasons I do the work that I do. I just knew, because I have a background in science, I knew that they were telling me more about the model they were working in than they were telling me about the body's ability to heal. But that was really because I have this science researchery background where I've been trained on how to do that. And so I kind of understand what are our assumptions and what's the limitation of the model. And I kind of understood that framework. And also we live in the all that is, not just in the part that science can observe, measure, and describe, and therefore comment on. And I knew that I was going to have to look at my healing, not just in the science part of it, but in the whole.
The all that is part of it.
And I knew I was going to have to learn how to listen differently.
Can you say more about that? Listening differently, you mean not just to what the world says, obviously, but your own self, right?
Yeah. I was going to have to learn to listen, as a chronic. For me, my chronic pain journey was, I don't want to be in this body. It hurts all the time. And I'm going to do whatever I can to distract, disassociate, not be here, not be here. Yeah. And what was interesting was, I had migraines for 7 years, and they just part of that journey was migraines.
Oh my
and they God. Would, I couldn't find a pattern. There was no pattern. It was just that the pattern was there's no pattern.
So it was random. You'd get these migraines randomly, you mean?
It really sure seemed like it. And it was interesting because the last migraine I had, even though I had a meditation practice and I would kind of work with staying present, the very last uh, migraine I had, I was in, my usual place, dark room, silent, as comfortable as I could be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was fighting that pain with all my strength. I was, fighting. And I heard this voice that talk about listening differently. I heard this voice,
Oh.
and I had said, Elizabeth, clearly your strategy is not working.
Wow.
Why not try a contrary action?
Oh, so wise.
And
Makes
and
so
I
much
was
sense
I was like, what?
for you, and how dare you tell me what I'm doing?
and 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 what would that even be? What would contrary action even be? I don't even know what that means, right? And I but it was so like jarring that
Profound.
it really shook me out of my go-to place, which was to fight the pain.
Wow.
And
What
so I just for a moment I dropped all of that and just was like pondering this concept.
mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
in that, and I got another little bit of a of a download there, which was, oh, what would it be like to stop fighting with the pain? That would be the contrary action.
Oh, so stopping all the resistance of it.
Yeah. And
Oh
I did.
my
And I
gosh.
never had another migraine.
Okay. Okay. Now, how did you do that? How did you go?
I was
Okay.
like,
I guess I won't resist these migraines anymore.
if I could teach that or put that in a bottle,
I'd be
wow.
it. You wouldn't need anything else. Yeah. The
That'd
world
be
would.
pretty awesome. That's probably one of the hardest things that I teach. There's two things that I really work on with that are really hard things of the work that I do with clients. One
Okay.
is trying to help them to bridge that gap between feeling completely separate and then this connection with a power greater than them.
Okay.
So that can be quite challenging. No,
Sure.
that's a
Yeah.
challenge sometimes.
Sure.
And
Mhm.
the other one is teaching how to drop resistance, because that is so the resistance in me, with the habit was so ingrained,
Of course. Yes.
and there's a whole neurophysiology around habits. And that was very
Mm.
powerful. And so chronic pain, people that just suffer from chronic pain, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, doesn't matter what kind of pain it is. It's all, if it's 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more, it's chronic.
Okay,
So
that's chronic. That's how
the
you
br-
define it, is those
yeah,
parameters.
yeah,
And
the brain can't tell the difference between a broken bone and a broken heart. It all sends the same signals of the brain. It hurts.
wow.
So we get a habit
Wow.
in the brain around resisting.
Okay.
Right. And we get other habits around chronic pain, but that's the big one. And
Wow.
teaching that is tricky,
Yeah.
and it
That's
really
hard for people to hear, isn't it? Yeah.
well, it can be. It depends on if you're able to get into the present moment.
Mhm.
Remember, I said, "Oh, this thing happened to me, and I got my attention, and then
Yes.
like my brain chaos." And what did it do? It got my attention and brought me into the present moment.
Mhm.
And I started working in the present moment. And now, how did I drop the resistance? I actually kind of felt in the body where I was holding on. I had to kind of do a search in my body of
Kind
where
of
the,
scan yourself with
yeah, I
certain.
had to do a scan,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I had to kind of find the muscles that were doing the clenching, and
Okay.
I had to cajole them to let go.
Okay.
And there were things I know later in my life, because that was only part of my chronic pain issue. but that was a big part of it. That was, it was a significant part and a big lesson there. I realized that there were parts of me that had been holding on for so long, I'd forgotten where the muscles were that were doing the holding. So it can
Wow.
be,
Okay.
it can be
Okay.
like that. It can be, oh, I didn't even know I was doing that, because it becomes kind of at a level of unconscious.
It's so habitual then to manage the chronic pain that you go into an unconscious kind of pattern with it then. Is that what you,
Yeah, it's just it becomes ingrained in the nervous system, and that's just what it does.
it's like the
That
background
thing,
of your life, so to speak, in your
yeah,
nervous.
um, this is why yoga, for instance, this is why I brought that in as a practice, because it addresses habits and stressors in the nervous system at the nervous system level.
Ah,
Yeah, so you can do yoga practice, and I don't have to know what it is that the practice is clearing, but I can feel my body open, and I can feel kind of things are just flying off. It's really cool. I love it because I don't have to think about anything except doing the practice. Oh,
well,
do some breath
yes.
work.
And part of what I've learned about yoga, and I'm not an expert like you, but I love yoga and I do it 2 or 3 times a week, is it gets you in the present moment too, for sure. If you're really practicing it, I think as it's meant to be practiced. But like I said, I do it a few times a week and I haven't thought of, oh, I'm clearing out. Like I'm not aware of that. So what do I need to do to be like,
Oh, that was
you know what I
something.
mean?
Yeah, that was something I noticed in a very specific Kriya called Kirtan Kriya, which is
Mm,
we bring in a finger movement,
okay. Okay.
and we chant.
Okay.
And it goes kind of like this. Satanama, 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 and it goes on like that. There's an
Okay.
intimate connection between the hands and the brain.
Mm.
And so we're not just touching here, we're pressing, gently pressing.
For those
And
of you that are just listening and aren't watching this on YouTube, we're like putting our thumb to our pointer finger, our index finger, our thumb to our middle finger, our thumb to our ring finger, our thumb to our pinky as she's chanting those things. So
that's right.
sorry about that,
That's
but not
right.
everybody
Yeah.
watches them on YouTube. So, okay.
Yeah. So there's this connection between the brain and the hands. And so when we touch the fingers to each other in a specific way,
Mm-hmm.
it's stimulating the brain in a certain way. And this Kirtan Kriya is done, is actually the most researched Kriya in Kundalini style yoga. And it's used in hospitals for stroke patients and Alzheimer's patients to help them regain brain capacity.
You're kidding. So
No.
doing those simple
Yeah. Yeah.
touches with
That's how
your thumb and
powerful
fingers,
the connection is. Yeah.
that helps with memory and
Yeah.
and
And focus. It's really good at focus and so
oh
that
my
so they
God.
use it for that. And
Wow.
also it helps to be present, and the healing field is in the present moment. So if you can be present, you're out of the way. The body just knows exactly what to do. You're not influencing it with,
Wow.
oh, I'm worried about the past, or I'm freaking out about the future,
Uh-huh.
or stressing about the future. I'm right here. I'm doing this. What I like to use it for is breaking a habit. We use it
Mm.
in recovery, addiction recovery coaching and just addiction recovery to help
Okay.
break habits. And yoga uses it to help break habits, period, not, just, habits that are not serving us anymore.
Really?
I just ended up doing a 90-day. I normally will do that for 11 minutes in a certain way. You can look it up online, Kirtan
Okay.
Kriya.
Okay.
And we normally would do that for 40 days, and you'll notice, I notice usually around day 30, 33, the habit things just are different. There's a transformation.
Shift.
Very
Mm,
cool. I just ended up a 90-day practice with it because one of my yoga teachers put it out there as
nice.
a asked for 40 days as an assignment, and I had another one that said do it for 1,000, and I'm like, I'll do it for 90.
1,000? 3 years.
Yeah, some people, there are people that do it, that will do it for, and the reason that they do it is because it's so profound. But the reason I brought that in was because when I'm doing Kirtan Kriya, I actually have experienced shifts, things just kind of leaving, and I don't even know what they are, but I feel different and I feel lighter. And it's a little bit like ancestral clearing in that way. I feel lighter having done it, right? And what I love about that is I don't have to know what it is. I don't have to. I just did 90 days of Kirtan Kriya because I could see I had habits in my life, and I was like, you know what, it's time to change this up. Let's see what happens, you know.
Right.
And things just started shifting in a good way. So
Wow.
it's really, I think it's a very useful tool to help us with our evolution
Mm-hmm.
because uh, uh, life is change. And I'll say my evolution. I won't put that on anyone else. Life is change, and one of the things, an element of the resistance in me is to want to stay with the known, right?
No,
Instead of
sure.
the courage to walk into the unknown, which
Yeah.
is that's heart-centered, but my mind wants to dominate. Do it this way. This is the way we're used to it. And the nervous system's like, well, we know what this is.
Yes.
It's like the stress habit. Stress
Sure.
is a habit, chronic pain is a habit.
Wow.
And in order to heal from all of that, you need to change your habit.
Well, that is so fascinating. I never thought about chronic pain as a habit. Now, one of my questions about that, because I'm fortunate not to be, at least not in physical chronic pain, in those words, that type, is if someone's in pain, like you were in pain with your migraine, or if someone's, got a chronic back pain issue or neck pain, I hear this a lot from clients. You said, we're not in the present moment. We need to get in the present moment. But if they're just there saying, gosh, my neck hurts today, aren't they in the present moment, or are they actually not? Am I being too
Oh,
literal? You know
well,
what I mean?
yes and no. There's a few
Okay.
ways we could go. That's
Okay.
we'll get into that.
Yeah.
That is very powerful what you just said.
Tell me more about that.
Think about our relationship with pain.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
When I was little and one of us, skinned our knee or bumped into each other or whatever it was, what happened? The adults rushed into the area and
Kiss made it all better.
they did everything they could to make the pain go away as fast as possible.
Yep.
But what is the subtext of that? We're
Pain's
with
not
pain.
okay.
Pain is bad. Yeah.
We're not comfortable with
So
it.
so we're coming into a pain experience with
Yeah.
that judgment.
Oh my gosh, we are. You're right. I never thought about it.
Well, I figured it out because I was doing it. and and
Wow.
uh
Okay.
and so but I'll tell you when I really got it was I went into a pain management program. This guy, Dr. Peter Prescott, who left us this beautiful book, Conquer Chronic Pain, An Innovative Mind-Body Approach. His
Okay.
program, I walked into his program with 40 years of chronic pain, and I walked out 52 days later with no pain. And he never even promised that would happen.
What? 50? Oh, wait, hold on. You got out of 40 years of chronic pain in less than 2 months from applying, what was this guy's name again? And the author,
Yeah.
Conquer Chronic Pain. Yes,
Yeah.
please, let's make that known.
Yeah, he
What's
passed
his name?
away in 2016, but he left us this beautiful book.
Peter. How do you say that last name?
Prescott, it's a Polish name,
Pres-
Prescott. Yeah.
P-R-Z-E-K-O-P. Okay,
Yeah,
Peter
yeah.
Prescott.
And so this is what he said.
Wow.
He said, it was the first question out of his mouth. I'm sitting in this room with a bunch of strangers at the treatment center because he was helping me get off all the medication I was on.
Wow.
So I'm detoxing. I don't know anybody. I've been isolated for years, and I'm in this room full of strangers.
Wow.
And Peter said, Dr. Prescott says, what are you doing to contribute to your pain?
Uh-oh.
I was like, my hackles went up.
How dare you blame me for my pain, right?
What's wrong with you? How could you even say that in this room? I mean, all this was, I had this whole thing in my head kind of exploded in my brain.
I can understand you being defensive. I bet most people felt that.
But I didn't say it out loud. but I heard it in my brain. I was like, rawr, I was anyway. But in the next split second, that was one split second. And in the next split second, I was like, oh my God. He just took me from victimhood to empowerment with one question.
Yep.
He just suggested that there might be something I was doing to contribute to my experience.
And that is a universal law, a universal truth about everything. When we're suffering in any way, people out there, listen carefully, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, yes, come right back to center to start getting the answers, because blaming or complaining or victimhood is disempowering. And we've all done this. Oh my gosh. So yeah. He flipped a switch in you.
I was like, dude, you've got my attention. Yeah, I see that you're onto something here. And the next thing he said, so, I was like, how those of us that are old enough to hear a record when it goes like that, when the it was like that. It was like that.
I'm old enough to hear that too. Yes, I know that sound. I'm old enough.
So the next thing he said was, don't judge the moment. And I was still in defensive mode. And I was like, dude, I'm just sitting here minding my own business. I'm not judging anything.
You in the whole room trying to get over the last point he made. So
really holding on to my position here, right? Still, even with after that question, I'm still like my habit of defending, right?
Yes, of course.
And because he had the room, I just was quiet because he knew something I didn't, and I was wanting there to know what it was.
Yep.
And he wasn't talking about the moment per se. He was talking about my pain. And I realized in that moment, oh my goodness, I've been judging my pain as bad my whole life.
Oh yes, well, of course that's what we do. Of course we would. I mean,
and that was
good, is it? I mean, we don't go, oh, pain, yay, great, I love you.
No, we don't want to do that either.
Yeah, I mean,
but what I learned from that moment was pain is information. This is the science coming out of me. Pain is information.
Information. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, pain is information. So, what is it? What is the information? What are you going to do with that information? And I have another friend and teacher who says, his name is Guruprem Singh Khalsa. He says this: pain is the currency of transformation. Be careful how you spend it.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. Pain is the currency of transformation.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Wow. So it's a gift we can use.
It's information. Yes, it's information, and it's up to us as to what we do with it.
Okay. Wow.
And that was never said to me as a kid.
Oh no.
That was not even it wasn't even in the horizon out there as a possibility until I went into Dr. Prescott's class, and all of a sudden, like, my whole world was like, oh, there's a whole nother way to look at this. And that would be another thing I would really encourage anybody listening to this is when you have a problem in your life and you feel like it's a stuck point where I'm trapped, or I don't know how to get out of this, or whatever ask yourself, and this is where the listening comes in. We'll go back to the listening, right? Listening differently. Ask yourself, is there another perspective I can look at this from?
Yes, that's a powerful question. Yes. And you're talking stuck in any circumstance, any emotional turmoil, any physical pain, you're talking about anything here, right?
Yeah.
Any form of suffering. Is there another way another perspective I can look at this? Okay.
Yeah.
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 Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah.
Oh,
Because like
listening
some of
differently.
us, well, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, I was saying listening differently, which is kind of where we started.
Listening.
Listening differently. How can I listen differently here?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. What about the people who say, my pain is so intense, I can't listen. I can't come into the present moment. I can't, they just feel trapped in it. Like,
Yeah,
how do we help them move the needle a
sure.
little in the
Yeah.
direction where
So
breath
this
work?
is,
Is it, I don't know. Where do we start?
yeah, so I love that question. So helpful because again, as Dr. Peter said, pain tries to steal your attention away from everything but it.
Yes. Yes. Oh, for sure.
So I'm like, well, and it seems to have an awful lot of power, but he helped us understand that we actually have power by what's the meaning we're making, what's happening with the habit. And when you ask where do you start, Dr. Bruce Perry has really been helpful. He's a trauma specialist.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
He wrote a book with Oprah. I can't remember the name of it, but it's great. It's a book on trauma. That he and Oprah wrote this book, and uh, and he lays it out so beautifully. First, you have to address the nervous system because it needs to feel safe.
Right. Okay. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you'll talk to anybody who's in chronic pain, and they'll tell you they don't feel safe.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So the first thing you have to do is take the nervous system into an experience where it feels safe. The mind is going to follow the nervous system.
Okay.
Isn't that an interesting concept, right? The mind follows
Yeah.
the nervous system.
Yeah.
We do that with really long, deep breath. There's an intimate connection between a long exhale and relaxing in the nervous system. So in chronic pain is a stress response that is stuck in the on position. So we're a normal person who doesn't have chronic pain, when there's a threat or a perceived threat in the environment,
Mm-hmm.
an injury would be included in that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole physiology and psychology that we apply to meet the moment and meet the threat, and then it's over. And then the stress response goes back into the off position, so it's got balance. In chronic pain, the stress response gets stuck in the on position.
Okay.
It's on all the time. And what does that mean? It means I'm hypervigilant. It means I'm dysregulated. It means I'm in fight or flight mode all the time, shut down, whatever that super amygdala fear center in the brain, that's what's activated. So
Wow.
we have to address, this is why we address it at that level, because
Okay.
we were trying, and that's what Dr. Prescott promised me. He promised me, he said, I can help you get your stress response back to balance.
Wow.
And when he said that, that was on the phone before I went into his program, and he said, and he knew because of the medicine I was on. I never told him. He knew it. He knew I was having panic attacks, and I never told him. And he said, and I can help you with those panic attacks will go away. I was like, what? I'm coming.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be the front
how soon can I get there? Kind of thing.
No kidding.
He never promised that he would take the pain away, but he did promise that he'd help get the stress response back to normal, which was the medicine was causing the panic, and the stress response out of whack was also causing the panic. So it was,
wow,
just the whole physiology,
a whole domino effect to the whole situation.
But we have to address the nervous system. So that long, deep breath, especially with the exhale as long or longer than the inhale, 3 minutes of that at least. try it for 11 for 40 days. It'll change your life.
3 minutes, 3 to 11 minutes a day
Yeah.
for 40 days.
Yeah. Well, I'd encourage you to
Oh,
do 11. Start with 3 just to get
okay.
a feel for it. You'll understand. When I have a new client who comes and they're all, hyper and dysregulated, the first thing I do is take them through 3 minutes of this breath work. And you can see their body just calm down,
I believe it. Yeah.
and the look on their face is like, oh my goodness, my body remembers how to do that.
Yes.
Calm down. And and they have a sense of calmness in the body, and now they're in gratitude.
Wow. Okay. So
And
already more, more, the foundation is set for more healing automatically just through that.
yeah, so we work at the level of the nervous system. Then the next one, so there's 3 steps:
Okay.
safety, belonging, and learning.
Okay.
And
So
it's a hierarchy.
what's the belonging part?
The belonging part is in when we are, remember I talked about how defensive I was? Yeah.
Yes.
We can't defend and connect at the same time.
Mm, yes.
It's like we can't run and rest at the same time. We're
Sure.
just not made to do that. So
Of course.
that's kind of powerful. So
Very
what
good.
happens in chronic pain, and really addictive habits will do this as well, is we disconnect from our authentic self because we're guarding, and we disconnect from others because we're guarding, and we
Yeah.
disconnect from higher power because, like, what's it even? Is it even there? I mean, there's a lot of mind judgment stuff that happens there.
Sure. It's abandoned me and
Yeah, I mean, and and I'm not saying any of it. I'm not saying any of that is wrong. I'm saying it's what we do.
yeah. Yeah.
So let's just kind of own that. And
Yes,
so
sure.
that second piece is, remember I said if the new client can trust me enough to go through 3 minutes of breathing, so that's them opening up enough to trust this strange woman they don't even know, but they think it might help them, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And then they have an experience. Now we're co-regulating because now they want to connect. Like, what just happened? This is amazing. So now there's a sense of connection and belonging to one another. We're co-regulating, and now we can learn. But you can't learn unless you've got this nervous system feeling safe and this sense of belonging in
Wow.
place.
Got
Think
it.
about when we were in school, right? Think about when you're in school. I remember being a child in school, and I had one English teacher who was scary.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and
All had a
and the,
scary teacher.
and the bar was pretty high in terms of, like, we had to be prepared. I mean, it was very scary to me.
That's a tough
So
one. Yeah.
I would go into the classroom, and I would already perceive a fair amount of tension, that I was having to, like, meet a certain amount of pressure. But when he got angry, I would try, and I couldn't leave my desk. I couldn't leave my chair,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't learn.
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an example of, like, and he lost me as soon as he got angry. I'm not connected. I'm not even, like, I'm
Oh,
checked out.
of
Right.
course.
So
Right.
that's kind of an example of kind of a blatant example of what happens, how we learn.
Makes sense.
He's got to calm the room down, get everybody breathing again, and then he's got to say sorry, or whatever he does to, and then we can go back to the lesson.
So is this accurate then to say, so let's say we're having just a bad day, life's tough today, or, you had a fight with your roommate that morning before you both went off to work, or the boss got crazy today, or, just whatever's happening in a day, maybe. so we're just trying to stay psychologically safe, right? We're just like, okay, I can't take any more, or, whatever. So I'm just going to put all my walls up and ignore everybody or whatever. So, but then we can't focus on what we're supposed to be doing.
That's right, because your nervous system doesn't
Because
understand.
we're just too busy locking it down.
Well, yeah, and
right?
you haven't addressed the nervous system part.
Right.
You can't do it with the mind. You can't think your way out of I'm freaked out. You have to actually start in the breath.
Okay. That's very important for me to know with all of my clients, because there are times when, that I'll just help them breathe, like, and really have some conscious breathing and just kind of melt the defenses, and then they can be open to the connection, which provides the foundation to then be open to learning, or then we can focus on what we need to get done, or whatever.
Yeah, you're literally shifting the nervous system with 3 minutes of long, deep breathing, where that exhale is as long or longer than the inhale. You're literally shifting the nervous system from defensive,
okay,
and fight, or shut down, or whatever, all that, to this relaxed, receptive state in 3 minutes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's how powerful.
Everybody just started their day with that 3 minutes. It probably changed the world, right?
I start my day with 11 minutes, 11-minute breath practice as part of my little morning routine, and it's kind of magical. Now, there's a reason. When I left Dr. Prescott's program, he said, use the tools every day for the rest of your life. And one of his tools was the breath. And I took him at his word, because, he proved to me that he was the authority.
Yeah. No kidding.
He had my attention.
Yeah.
Like I said,
he had you at hello. He had you at
he did.
What responsibility are you taking, or whatever that.
Well, he had me really on the phone with I can help you with your panic attacks to get your stress response back. Well, I'm like, okay, because nobody else was talking to me about that. Everybody else was saying, you can't heal from this. Put up with it. Here are your medications. And none of that was working.
That is so distressing to hear, that the medical profession told you couldn't do it. So we don't want to, I don't disrespect medical people, because they've saved my life. They've saved lives forever, and that's fantastic. And we don't necessarily want to believe everything they tell us.
Well,
we want our higher knowing to be the authority, right?
Well, yeah, and this is the way I look. Look at the model they're using. Yeah. So the way they were looking at it for me was, they kept looking at my back, which was the source of the pain. Was where I felt the pain. I mean, the migraines were ancillary to that, but the problem was this
was the spine or the back, or
was a low back injury I had that needed a lot of surgery and never really, anyway. So here's the way Dr. Prescott put it that I thought was so genius. He said, if you have 3 people that have x-rays just like mine, you'll see that one of them has pain all the time. The other one has pain only when they're stressed. And the other one doesn't have any pain at all. How do you explain that just by looking at the x-ray? You can't. You can't. And this is the thing that my doctors didn't understand. Peter understood, Dr. Prescott understood, because he was a specialist, he was a neurophysiologist. He understood addiction. He had was a psychiatrist. He had this incredible background, and really did understand. Also, he had this he was a Qigong healer as well. And so he had this understanding that you can't separate mind, body from spirit, which is why his book is called Innovative Mind-Body Approach. Because it's including the whole system.
Holistic approach.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was so important.
Wow. That's
So
fascinating.
we have to understand the model that we're working with when we sit in front of any kind of healer. It doesn't, primary care physician, orthopedic, doctor, acupuncturist, Reiki master. So I don't care who it is.
Yes.
My experience has taught me what model are they using and what is their scope of practice.
Yes. Yes.
Because if I walk into my primary care doctor's office and sit with him and start talking to him about acupuncture meridians,
Mm-hmm.
that's not within his scope of practice. Now he knows about acupuncture, but
Right.
he can't comment on that. Plus, in that medical system, they're limited not just by everybody's limited by their scope of practice, but they're
Sure.
limited by the
Yes.
insurance, the liability and insurance and stuff. So
Sure.
understand who you're sitting in front of and what their scope of practice is, and make your adjustments. You ask your questions within that.
Yes.
That's my suggestion. So I'm not dissing anybody. I'm just saying we all have a lens that we look through. I have a lens I look through, and
I do
people
too.
come to me and ask me X, Y, and Z, and like if I can't answer Z, I'll send it to somebody who can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I had a client not long ago who got upset and said, every time I go to my psychiatrist, they want to push meds on me. And I'm like, well, that's their healing path. That's
Right.
what they've been taught is the road to wellness. And that is for some people, right? So whatever. And so that's their belief and that's where they practice from. And so that's kind of what you got to expect if you go to that service. So I hear what you're saying. So if someone's been in chronic pain forever, they have not gotten any satisfactory healing or relief, then whatever they've used up until now, maybe they want to expand that a little further. Maybe you want to give Elizabeth a call. We've got all her information in our show notes, of course, Elizabeth-Kipp, KIPP.com. Gosh, Elizabeth, there was a whole other subject that I thought would be so interesting to tap into this morning, but I don't think we better even start because we're running out of time. But is there anything, and that is, well, I guess I should say, in case all our listeners are like, what?
I'll bring it in.
Is Ancestral Clearing.
I can do that, and I can bring the whole kind of perspective in in about a minute and a half, maybe 30 seconds. I can bring the perspective.
Oh, I'd love for you to. Great.
So just think about the Russian dolls, right? The nested Russian dolls.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Think about that as the model I'm about to talk about.
Okay.
So the little doll is me, each of us, as the individual.
Okay.
And the next doll out, and the influences that what's happening in me, and then the next doll out is my family influence.
Okay.
And then the next doll out is my kind of neighborhood, the city, the culture I'm growing up in.
Okay.
And the next one it would be the nation, and the next one that would be the globe.
Okay.
Right. So we're the collective. Okay. Right. And we're talking about that all in the present moment. So all those things, individual, family, neighborhood, culture, nation, globe, they're all affecting us in the present moment. That's quantum physics tells us this, right? Okay. We're all connected at this level, and we're influenced by all those things. And the last Russian doll, the last one on the outside, is the ancestral, the imprints from the past, and not just the past that in my life, but in my lineage, right? And we could get into the whole biology of that, which we don't have time for, but but all those, that's information. Remember we talked about pain as information? There's information that comes through the DNA energetically
from generations back.
from generations
Just our
that
personal lineage, or you mean like the whole wide world's
both,
lineage?
both.
Okay, both. Oh,
It's
wow.
all affecting us, right? So that's
Wow.
that's a big, no, that's why we do another podcast. That's a big concept to work
That
with.
is a
And
huge
that's,
concept. Yeah.
but that's kind of looking at the outer landscape, and ancestral clearing
Wow.
speaks to the ancestral piece of that, right? So anyway,
Wow. And so, is there, just real quick, any relationship between today's migraine that someone is having and all of that, all the Russian dolls?
there certainly can be,
Very much so.
and most likely it would be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So that is kind of how your work comes all together, is you're
Mhm.
looking at the whole picture, mind, body, soul, spirit, all of it, and history, culture,
Mhm.
all of it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh my, yeah. I might have to have you on again, Elizabeth. You want to just hang out with me for the next, I don't know. How long have you got? No, I know we have to let you go for now. Is there any last thing you'd like to say before we say goodbye to our audience
Sure.
today?
Well, thank you so much. This
Oh,
was a
thank
lot of
you.
fun. I'm thrilled to be able to connect with your audience, and I'm excited about sharing your audience with mine. And I would like to just say at the end here, the greatest healer in your life lives within you. Doctors can set a bone and stitch up a wound, but they can't tell the body how to heal. Only the body knows how to do that.
Uh,
Be
I got
aware.
chills. Oh, sorry. Go
And
ahead.
I was going to say, be aware of where your reference point is. Because for years, and it took me a long, I learned that by the school of hard knocks. For years and years and years, I was externally focused on the doctors, the
Sure.
whoever.
Yeah.
And I completely disregarded this thing in here, and it was a mistake. So that was another, Peter didn't talk about that directly, but I came to that conclusion being in his energy. Yeah,
Mm.
in his teachings. Yeah.
Okay, so remembering that even as we collaborate with doctors or nurses or physicians or psychiatrists or acupuncturists or Reiki masters or whomever we lean into to
Mhm.
work with our pain, what we're going through, we need to embrace our own power in the healing process as well. What we have
Yeah,
inside.
so all the healers will help us give us information on what are the best conditions. These are how you set the conditions for the healing in the body. This is what you need to do. They'll give us their best information on that, and then it's up to us to implement as we feel is appropriate,
Mm-hmm.
and then get out of the way and let the body heal.
And stop that resistance you talked about
Yeah.
right off the bat.
And insistence. Oh, it needs to happen now, because I did that too. Like, why isn't it happening faster? Like, oh my God.
Get into a flow of it and trust the timing of it that's required and so forth. Okay. Oh my goodness, this was so fascinating. It was so helpful, Elizabeth. I just cannot thank you enough. Everybody go reach out to Elizabeth if you want to know more and if you want to see what all she has available to you. She's a great resource. Please share this episode with others you know could use it. And yeah, I will talk to you all again soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Life Makeovers podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with those that you think would also benefit from what we're doing here. And I will talk to you again soon.